Welcome to the Why Not Us podcast. We are back.
2024, baby.
Oh,
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. You didn't get any better looking, I see, through the holiday season.
Just more wisdom.
This is Mike McGowan. My name's Carter Kramer. Just want to welcome you guys back, because it has been a while.
Yeah,
Last time we recorded, it's been like a month ago. More than a month and a half. Yeah, a couple months maybe, actually. Yeah, it's been a little while. You guys know Mike and I try to get together when we can, and it takes a little while to...
logistically,
just make it work.
difficult sometimes.
Yeah, and we've made some changes.
We have, as you can see.
Yeah, we're in a different spot, different studio.
Right.
And Why Not Results is helping us out.
That's right.
Some recording for us. So
Shout out.
Thanks to you. Jimmy's been awesome already to help us kind of get going.
Jimmy Talbert, part of Why Not Results here in Phoenix, Arizona.
In the Phoenix market. So
This beautiful green building.
Yes. It was cool. It's just cool because it's like attached to a house. I'm like, if we just wanted to, get weird in here, we could just roll next door.
Yeah. The couches are comfortable.
From experience. Okay. Well, we are sort of out of the groove, I feel like. So this might take a little bit to get in the flow, but
I'm sure we'll get it back. Like within,
it's like riding a bike.
Within a few months, we'll get it back.
It's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, let's dive into a little bit of topic. And Jimmy, just so you know, if we get to like 30 or 40 minutes, do you want to just give us a heads up and we'll kind of cut to a little break so we can kind of
I
read?
thought it was like 20, 25.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Anyway,
We are on a practice.
I have no fucking idea what's going on.
No idea what we're doing.
All right, so you had kind of teed up some topics. We kind of take turns, I think, kind of setting these up, which is kind of fun. There's different topics to dive into, and all of them have been interesting. I've had a few people reach out to me recently that are kind of new listeners, I'll call them.
Well, great.
And it's been fun because they're like, "Oh my gosh, you guys have 20 some episodes."
There's like 28 of them.
Yeah. So it's cool that I think we've touched on a lot of interesting stuff. So today's going to be, I think, right in line with that. I think that's an interesting topic.
Uh-huh.
And you teed this up, so you'll probably be kind of diving into a lot of this. And I went through your notes, which just as always are absolutely awful to go through because there's so much information in such a small. Dude, I have a small brain, so like you were like fucking typing me out all these notes and stuff. I'm like, so anyway, just get into it.
I think it's important to have good research for the topics that we...
You do a great job, dude. You do a great job at research. I appreciate all of your help to go through that stuff because I hate doing research and I'm not very good at it. So,
if I'm being really honest,
yeah,
I'm a lot like Claudine Gay in this respect. It's just control, copy, and control, paste.
I mean, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, hey, I appreciate your honesty.
I could be the Harvard president because I know how to copy paste.
That's right. You just use an AI for all your research. Okay, so we're going to talk about states' rights.
Yeah. So the reason I thought of this was, and we've actually had a couple comments like, "Hey, why don't you talk about this or that?"
Yeah.
And this has come up recently because of two major situations, right? Actually, three. But two of that have been in the news much more just recently, and one that was been in the news for a couple of years, right? So states' rights versus federal rights.
Yeah.
Right? So the immigration, the problem at the border, which is, 100 miles?
Yeah, here. Yeah.
That...
We should just go to Nogales.
No,
I'm kidding.
Why Nogales?
I don't know. Ever been to a pharmacy in Nogales?
Can I say no or yes? Or
Don't answer that.
Anyway.
Me either.
So here we go. So while we're out of practice, we haven't changed. So the immigration crisis is one thing, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is that you got two states now, one that did it through the Supreme Court and one that the Secretary of State just decided to do it to uphold her right, for the Constitution or whatever, to ban Trump off the ballot. Right?
Yeah, interesting, yeah.
So, and then the topic that I said has been in the news for a couple of years, but it's not so prevalent right now, but it will become election time, are abortion rights.
Absolutely,
right.
Yeah. It's always a big deal between the two, between the right and the left. It's always a big discussion. It's been a big one in, that's been a big one where I am in Iowa lately. That was a big, because they kind of upheld the, hey, we're not going to, it's not okay.
It became up to the states, right?
Right. And I was one of those spots where they said, no, sorry, dude, it's not going to be, after whatever it is, after the first trimester.
Yeah. Well, if you do some research on it, you'll see that every state is different. I saw a map where it was all color coded by state.
Yeah.
And it was like, up to 12 weeks, up to 15 weeks, up to 18 weeks,
all over the map.
Second trimester, like dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
And it was just all over the map. It was,
Yeah. Interesting topic. Yeah.
So
that's a states' rights issue. So if you just list them off really quick. So I mean, if we're kind of talking through, these are the main points, I think, at least, I shouldn't say list them off, but the main ones that kind of continually come up as maybe controversial from state to state, what would those be?
So you've got the death penalty.
Yep.
One of the things we've talked about in the past, assisted suicide, right? With Sydney, right?
Yeah, with my mom.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same-sex marriage.
Okay.
Big one. Gun control.
Yeah.
Right? Marijuana rights, cannabis.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's another one. We did an episode. Was that episode 8?
Yeah, episode 8. Yep.
I believe, or 7, or somewhere right there. Yep.
And then
legalization of marijuana.
Abortion has become a state's right since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But also, immigration is supposed to be a federal law.
Right.
It's the government's job to protect the borders.
Yeah.
Or however you want to say it, to secure the border, protect, however you want to say it.
Right.
But that has become not necessarily in question recently, but it's become a topic of conversation because Governor Abbott, Governor Hobbs here in Arizona, they've done different things. Like Governor Abbott put buoys and razor wire and sent troops to the border. So did Katie Hobbs. Oh geez. So did Katie Hobbs here.
Getting you started with environment.
I know. So did Katie Hobbs here in Arizona.
Yeah.
Right. So she dispatched the National Guard, although there's a lot of reports saying they never showed up, but whatever. I know. So these governors have had to take it into their own hands. Right. And you also hear all this stuff about, Abbott and DeSantis busing immigrants to Chicago and to New York and New Jersey and wherever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's become, because I don't know whether you want to call it, federal government apathy or it's they're doing it on purpose, right? Like, but they're letting people in all over the place and they're not securing the border because they're opening it up. So there's been a lot of, and so.
Yeah. Well, you and I talked about this too. There's actually incentives now for kind of those states that will harbor immigrants, right? And even illegal immigrants that are not documented as they come into the United States. Yep. Those guys are getting federal assistance.
Well, you saw Newsom just said any illegal. He didn't call it illegal immigrant because that would be
offensive,
or hurt someone's feelings, right? But he said, I think he said any undocumented people claiming asylum, and they're
Shouldn't there be a slang term for illegal immigrants, kind of like every other like cracker or something? They shouldn't there has. I was asking.
Naysayer. Right.
That's so funny.
That ESPN.
Talking about that anyway. Yeah.
So California. So Newsom said. Newsom said that any undocumented person seeking asylum will get health care.
Yeah. Yep.
How the hell, when you have a state that's that much in debt?
Yeah.
How do you just say, we'll give health care to anybody?
Obviously, no understanding of money, right?
No fiscal responsibility.
No fiscal responsibility, and no understanding of what it means to create a budget, stick to a budget, and that a budget in the red is probably not a great budget to stick to. Right.
Right. Well, for a government, it's great. For a business, it's death. Right.
Well, and again, but how does that make sense, Mike?
It does.
It doesn't make sense.
So it's interesting that these governors are forced to take action.
Right.
DeSantis, Abbott, formerly Ducey here, but now Hobbs.
Right.
Newsom's taking action, but in a different direction. You've got these mayors like Eric Adams up in New York City. You've got what's his name, Brandon Johnson in Chicago, saying this is going to cost us hundreds of millions of dollars over time.
Right.
And we have to forfeit. We're cutting back on police. We're cutting back on social services. We're cutting back on because we have to house immigrants and do that.
And look, man, to you, this is unfair because healthcare is expensive. And it's like, for me as somebody that now is, I'm unemployed. There's limited healthcare situation is very limited. It's expensive.
That is.
And it's like, I don't know. I think it's like, I would rather see us, if we're going to provide those benefits, why are we not providing those benefits to people like veterans or people that have given or have done something to help the country as a whole, not just people that are just show up and want to suckle off the teat.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a very sensible way to approach the issue.
I agree. I agree completely. And so, I looked this up. I said, so what does a state have to do, or what kind of legal precedent does a state have to take it under its own, under its own authority, what the federal government is supposed to do? So, known as the Guarantee Clause, Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution states, the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them from invasion, and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened, against domestic violence. Therefore, governors, attorney generals, and state legislators must take emergency measures beyond the scope of what has been attempted to this point to follow through on the primary function of government, protecting its citizens.
Okay.
Right? And so all of this immigration crisis, you talk about the fentanyl, the cartels sending people over there, the people who are on the terror watch list, the masses of 20 to 40-year-old men who are single coming in from every 130 different countries.
And look, man, people need to understand. I think there's some confusion with a lot of people. They assume that people coming across the Mexican borders are Mexicans. No, that's not.
They're from 130 different countries.
That's what I mean. It could be anywhere, right? It's just they're just using their points of entry and trying to weasel their way in. But a lot of those, I mean, there's people coming from the Middle East. There's people coming from Africa. There's people. I mean, it's from everywhere, right? So I think that people need to stop and take a breath and go, understand that's the part to me that's a little bit gets scary.
Yeah.
I mean, when we have terrorist countries sending people in and weaving through, and now let's also take a step back, because part of this discussion goes back to, remember how the whole border thing when Trump was in office, that was a huge deal, right?
So, because I'm going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it,
right?
Well, it didn't.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But however, that was a real issue.
Yeah.
And there was a real reason behind kind of making that stance of exactly what we're talking about. And one of the first things, if I'm not mistaken, that Joe Biden did when he got into office was sign that executive order.
They won.
Stop the construction of the wall.
They won.
And which now, since then, has said they're going to reinstate and they're going to continue construction on some portions of that. So,
but at the same time, he needs to build. He wanted to build, I think it was 20 more miles of wall, right, or something like that.
Yeah.
But he's also the DOJ is suing Texas for putting razor wire up. They're suing Texas to remove the razor wire. Yeah, it's in the.
What the? Really?
So you've got on the one hand, they're saying, hey, we need to build a little bit more wall, not the rest of it, but we just need to build a little bit.
But you can't have razor wire.
But take the razor wire down.
This reminds me of, so this is totally a sidetrack, but this totally relates. Okay, I mean it doesn't, but it does. When I had a piece of property in Cedar Rapids, at one point we had a theft issue. We had a bunch of meth heads that were coming in stealing copper out of old pieces of equipment.
Okay.
And these guys were climbing. It was a fence with barbed wire on the top, right? But they had found this old fence, cut a hole in it, whatever.
Yeah.
We since then put a new. So anyway, I get the police involved and we have this conversation. I'm like, hey, I want to put up some like nasty razor wire. I want a Rottweiler in the yard, and they're like, you can't do that. And I'm like, what do you mean I can't decide? My pride, I own it. And they're like, no, dude. If somebody comes in here and that dog bites them, you're liable. I'm like, they're trespassing in a spot that clearly has signage and says, beware of dog or whatever, right? Fucking bear traps, whatever we why can't we do it? We can't even protect our own shit anymore.
Yeah.
That's on such a small scale. We're talking about that on a national and international level, which is scary to me, man. It's like when you can't stand up to even protect your own, which again goes totally against the verbiage that you just talked about.
So Thomas Jefferson said the Constitution provides a firm foundation for states to act decisively in the absence of the federal government.
So in other words, if they're not going to do their part, then the states can step in and make those decisions, right?
And then the Constitution provides states an appropriate self-help, quote unquote, self-help remedy under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which stipulates that no state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as it will not admit delay. Right? So now there's a self-help provision, right? And again, act decisively in the absence of the federal government, but is it in a time of war? Is it in a time of peace? Right? And are we being invaded? Or so that's why everybody's so sideways on this whole thing, because you've got one faction of the world saying we're being invaded. And December, I think they said there was like 300,000 people that came through.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
it was a huge number. Yeah.
yeah. So are we being invaded? Is it a time of if we're dispatching the National Guard? Is that I don't know. Like,
Yeah. Is that a state of national emergency? Like, I don't know. It's an interesting. Yeah. So, okay. I mean, so what do we do, Mike? What's what's your take on the situation? What's the best way for us to, like, how do we, again, talking about states' rights versus kind of, if the federal government is not going to step up and handle some of these situations, how do you make this more of a black and white?
yeah. So
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's probably not a very good way to ask the question, but
I think it's really, really clear that the Biden administration has no interest in pursuing, federal policies necessary to secure the border. They have no interest, right?
no, I mean, they've essentially opened that thing wide open. Right?
I mean, you're talking human trafficking, you're talking drugs, you're talking violence in American communities, you're talking people on a terror watch list, right? And since, therefore, given, the federal government's dereliction of duty,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we call it in the service.
Yep.
If you're not doing your job, it's dereliction of duty.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's incumbent on governments and states to fill the void.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
look, I want to make something clear when we talk about specifically the immigration thing, because we've talked about this too. I think we both agree that legal immigration is a very integral part to our economic success in the United States.
it's our entire history.
That's how right? I mean,
Ellis Island.
You've got workers, you've got people, you've got human bodies to go out and do more projects and do more, create more products and services. Like, we're not saying like no immigrant should come into the United States. It's just there's got to be a process in place. And if the federal government's not going to be able to do that, then these states need to be able to look out for themselves, in my opinion.
100%. And it's funny because you hear on the news now, and mostly Fox because, the conservative.
Oh, yeah.
But, every state is now a border state. And again, Chicago, New York, New Jersey, all these places that they're shipping the migrants to. Yeah. What's funny is there's a lot of there's a lot of talk and there's a lot of finger pointing, at DeSantis, at Abbott, right? Because they're sending busloads of people to Chicago, or remember DeSantis sent that plane to Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah,
I thought that was funny. But anyway, so they're sending, but guess what? Biden, the administration was doing that before, but they were doing it at night, and there was no media coverage. Right, they were just shipping people to different parts of Fresno, and to Portland, and to Austin, right? Yep. And so they're just shipping people to these different places. But now, once conservative governors start doing it, because the facilities are backed up and everything's, just bursting at the seams, the conservative governors are now the bad guys. It's all media spin. I mean, it's all media spin on how it's being treated, because it's been treated the exact same way. One, it's wide open. Two, everybody is shipping all of these immigrants everywhere. It's just the narrative on who's doing what and who's evil and who's not. Right. It's ridiculous.
Oh, shoot. Hold on. Sorry. Hold on.
Yep.
Hold on.
Yep. See, we're out of practice.
No. I was just looking at this thing, because this is interesting, and it has to do with kind of what we're talking about in a way, because obviously I was like the most centralized from a geographic perspective. When we talk about this immigration piece, it's pretty well insulated inside of the country, right? And there's a lot of issues there as well, and it has to do with us a lot in the agriculture world. These large, huge, dairy farms, farmers that just need bodies, right? And they're super rural places where you don't get a lot of people coming there looking for work. There's not a lot of opportunity there. We had a case not too long ago. It was maybe a couple of years ago. Do you remember Molly Tibbetts? Do you ever hear about Molly Tibbetts?
I don't.
She was murdered by somebody with work. Yeah, somebody with I think maybe had a temp work visa. That was not. I don't think it was valid at the time that it happened. That's what I was trying to look up to see if it was legal or not legal. But the guy didn't speak any English. I just remember in the court case they had to have an interpreter the entire time because he didn't understand any English. But it was a guy working at a dairy farm, man. That he followed this young girl home from school a couple days in a row, and then he murdered her and dumped her body and got shot. I think she was 18.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was a really sad story, and it's just, I know it's one example, but those kind of things happen a lot, man. It's like, and then it becomes really difficult. Like I saw it more here in Phoenix, where it's really hard to catch those guys because they're undocumented. Nobody knows who they are.
Yeah, where are they?
That's what I mean. It's like, that's the most difficult part to me. It's like, how do you prosecute those guys in a criminal situation, especially here where there's 3.5 million people or whatever? How easy it is for those people to disappear.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's one thing in Brooklyn, Iowa, where there's like 1,000 people or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you're supposed to see the 6 Mexican guys or whatever they are.
You in a rap?
Yes, yeah. That's different.
And shitty F-150.
Yeah, right. 6 of them in a fucking Ford Econoline. I should say that. I know it's bad. I know it's. I know.
Here we go.
That may have been a little stereotypical.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I just want to continue to preach the fact that in all these states' rights cases, I think that it's great for states to have the ability to make their own decisions. I think we both agree that states' rights are really important. It's important that I don't think we want a synonymous, situation with rules and regulations all through the country.
Yeah.
Because it's nice to have options, dude. It's nice to be able to go, hey, fuck this state. I want to go somewhere else.
Well, so I mean, that's the larger conversation of states' rights, right?
Right, absolutely.
I mean, as we get into abortion, which we will in a minute, right?
But
if people having to go to different states to have an abortion,
right,
and there was a debate. It was Newsom versus DeSantis. I don't know. It was on Fox like last year. And now it is last year, right?
Yeah.
But and it was the 2 governors of a blue and a red state.
Yep.
And it was fiscal policy, this, that, and the other. There's droves of people leaving California because it's too expensive. The homelessness, the crime, the this, the that, and a lot of people. And there's a wave going into Florida because business is good. We talked about this,
yes,
in a previous podcast.
Yep.
It's really interesting to me the difference in immigration during with Trump and now with Biden. So Trump put into something called the Migration Protection Protocols. And it was basically remain in Mexico.
I remember that, the MPP, yeah.
Yeah, so these illegal immigrants were forced to stay. They were caught, like they'd come across the border. CBP would catch them. Boom, right back to Mexico.
Right back,
back to Mexico.
And they would basically hold them there.
They would hold them there
while they awaited the trial or whatever it was.
Yeah, or they would just, if they didn't want to be held in Mexico, okay, goodbye.
Yep, don't come back.
Just don't come back. And they'd go back to wherever the hell they came from, or they'd try to cross the border again, get sent back, boom, boom, boom. Then they're going to prison, right?
Right.
So on his very first day in office, Biden ended that with an executive order. So he didn't go through Congress or anything like that.
Executive orders, and we've talked about that on other podcasts too.
Over.
One guy should not be able to sign. Isn't that the point of democracy? It's the people who are supposed to be essentially in charge of their own country. It's not one person being able to stroke the pen and be like, hey, I'm just going to undo or do either way, right? And Trump did it too. They all did. This executive order thing has become very popular. I remember, we never used to hear about executive orders being signed. Right. Very rarely. Well, and it was usually in some sort of state of emergency.
Something like that, yeah.
Right? And like now all of a sudden it's like just this, it's like, let me show you how powerful I am as the president of the United States.
Remember after 9/11,
yes.
So, there's a bunch of stuff that happened to send troops here and there.
Yep.
Some of it was, done through the legislature. Some of it was done with the stroke of a pen. Right.
Yes. Yep.
So I mean,
again, I think that I understand the place for it, but it's scaring me that all of a sudden it's becoming commonplace.
It's common governance
to do an executive order.
It's a student loan thing.
Right.
So the student loan to have the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that.
Yes.
Hey, watch this. Use a wartime protection or a wartime act of 1950 and did this and somehow
a bunch of shit.
It's so bad, right?
Yeah.
So now the catch and release is back in place because that's
catch and release. It's a fishing term.
Yeah.
Yeah. Catch and release.
You can't.
You know what I noticed?
You can't call them illegal aliens, but you can catch and release them.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what you can't? When you're hunting, you can't catch and release. I don't know if you know that. It's one and done.
I'm gonna guess.
Well, maybe we need to change our approach with.
Maybe if you
go down that path. Remember the furry thing?
Oh, the furry thing. Oh God. Anyway, so sorry, private joke. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, these governors and these mayors now, like in New York City and Chicago and L.A., what have you, being forced to act because the administration is not acting on the border, and then when the governors do act, the administration takes them to court, and it's. What the hell is going on?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. That's a never-ending.
I mean, again, the human trafficking, the drugs, the crime in cities, the homelessness, our sovereignty as a nation. Is there any other country on this globe, right, that just lets people in willy-nilly? That you don't need some kind of documentation, or is there any other country in the world that does it? And by the way, if you're watching and listening and saying, well, that's what makes us the greatest country in the world. fuck off. We're a sovereign country, right? Other countries have, policies in place, borders in place for a reason, right? So, and you know what's interesting is Biden's going to leave hopefully next year, right? He'll be done about this time next year because someone else is going to win this election coming up. Right. Don't know who that'll be. If Trump might do it from a prison cell, but whatever, right? It's not going to happen in the next year. Something big isn't going to happen in the next year. Something big might not happen in the next 4 years of a president, or even 8 years.
Yeah.
But 15 years down the road.
That's right.
Right? 20 years down the road, when this 20-year-old that just came through is now 35 years old and has means and can do shit and has connections back to wherever.
Yes, and connections here.
Correct.
That's what's
going to happen.
Right.
And you know what? Biden will be dead and gone, thankfully. Right?
Yeah.
But he'll be dead and gone.
He's already dead. He just doesn't know it yet. It's like, God damn. Is that wax figure?
So
I did confirm, by the way, that Molly Tibbetts' killer was an undocumented alien. His name was Christian Bahina Rivera, and he was from the life in prison.
From where?
It just says he was an undocumented alien. It says Rivera's immigration status became a politicized issue after police and the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement indicated that he had been in the United States illegally.
Yeah. So now he's in prison for life.
And Governor Kim Reynolds argued that the murder could have been prevented with restrictive immigration policies.
Yeah. So he's in prison for life.
Correct.
He's getting 3 meals a day. Now he's working. He's got a roof over his head, and Molly Tibbetts is dead.
Correct.
And
now we're paying tax dollars for this illegal immigrant to sit in prison and rot for the rest of his life.
Correct.
Which is also, to me, a disservice to everybody in the country.
100%. So let me ask you a question. I wonder.
Yeah.
Is his lifestyle right now better or worse than it was before he came to this country?
It's hard to say, man.
Yeah. It's probably better. Is what I'm going to say. It's probably better. And a family lost a daughter. Friends lost a friend. Right? Brothers and sisters lost a sister, but he's got a better life than he had before.
It's awful.
And that's what
it's awful. As I read through this, it kind of brings back brings back the memories. It was longer ago than what I said. It was in July of 2018 that she was murdered.
Still.
But it was a pretty well known situation because, again, we're talking like Brooklyn, Iowa, bro. Place is tiny.
Never even heard of it.
That's what I mean. It's really small. I know. So yes, and again, it's kind of like I told you in my hometown. I mean, there was we had one situation, one homicide in my entire life.
Yeah.
Still to this day that I know of.
Jeez.
It's not like it'd be so when this stuff happens, dude. I mean, it's just, I don't know.
It's shocking.
It's very shocking. And then again, to come, there's a reason it doesn't happen there.
Right.
And people move to these places in these really small towns, a lot of cases, for some of that safety and security. And like you said, as we're dispersing people out and they continue to be dispersed about, they can end up anywhere. And it's not just in Arizona, and it's not just in Florida, and it's not just in California, and it's not just in New York, right? It's like they're in, and again, we're not saying that. I'm not saying that. I don't think you are either, that this is some awful thing to have immigrate. It's just, dude, this is why we have to have a process in place, and we have to make sure these people are documented, part of a productive part of our society, and here for the right reasons.
And let's be really, really honest. It's not just Biden, and it wasn't just Trump.
No.
Immigration policy has been broken for decades.
Absolutely.
Right? And then right now, but you hear the Biden administration, that moron Jean-Pierre, the press secretary, talking about how Republicans in Congress are stopping the president from taking meaningful action at the border, or however the hell she says it. Between her stuttering and all of that. So
at least you can read a teleprompter.
I've never known anyone in the history of man who's less qualified to be a press secretary than that idiot.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the first 2 years of his administration, he had a Democratic supermajority. He had the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
If he had such a great plan when he came into office, why didn't he get something done in those first 2 years?
Yeah, there was no restriction.
None.
He had no barriers, no hurdles.
Could have passed anything he wanted.
And didn't do shit.
And plus, in the Senate with the uniparty being is what it is, with McConnell and Schumer sleeping with each other, right? Like, I mean, when they're not
You
dozing.
can't make this shit.
No, no. When they're not dozing off at the podium.
Yeah,
right. Like,
yeah. Then these are the people running our country.
yeah, exactly. So he could have passed anything he wanted to,
Yeah,
and he did squat.
yeah,
Except sign a couple of executive orders in the first 5 days to please his party,
yeah,
and then just let it all go to shit.
yeah.
Right. So before we get to the break, right? Because we want to cover this banning Trump from the.
We want to cover a few different things. I mean, we got kind of really deep down into the immigration thing, but I think right now it's a very relevant topic.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, seeing these giant amounts of humans just flowing through here is, to me, is scary.
Yeah.
It's gotten to a point where it's like, dude, again, not just the numbers, it's just that we don't know when these are undocumented folks, dude. It's like we don't know where they're coming from or where they're going or what their plans are, why they're even here. What the hell are we doing, man? There's some of these people don't have good intentions.
Right.
There's a lot of people coming from other parts of the world that don't like the United States of America. So they're, so
And honestly,
I don't know.
There are some people that are coming here looking for a better life.
Absolutely, most of them. I think that's by far the majority.
I agree.
Right? I mean,
I agree
think
with
that's unfortunate that it takes a couple of.
But by simply saying with catch and release that if you are claiming asylum because you're being persecuted in your home country, and they have a little piece of, you see it on the news.
So, dude, is the catch and releasing? Is it like fishing, where like you hope that the next time you catch them, they're bigger?
Oh, hold on. Well, with all the processed food we have, yeah, probably.
Yeah,
But
I want to tell them so many bad jokes right now. I can't.
no, they'll be happy. They'll die with a big smile on their fat face, right?
Yeah.
So see these guys. Anyway, so dude, I saw something on the news the other day where a person, and they showed the document, right?
Okay.
And you can find it online. They showed the document where this person who came across claimed asylum.
Okay.
And they had to return. So they were given a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
Report to a Dallas courthouse.
Okay.
Right. In 2031. In 7 years. At the time it was 8 because it was last year. Report to
Unbelievable, dude.
Report to this court in 8 fucking years.
And what are they going to do in
the meantime?
All right. Let's take a break. That's a great spot to stop. All right, we are back.
Yes, we are.
After the break. That was a fun break because I found an article I thought you might be interested in after our discussion. The title of the article is Biden Roasted for Straight-Faced Claim GOP Needs to Give Him Money to Protect the Border. This is from the Western Journal. It says, after years of trashing former President Donald Trump's border wall project and deriding Trump as a racist for even suggesting the idea, President Joe Biden now has the audacity to claim that he needs the GOP to give him money in order to finish that long-abandoned project. What a fucking moron. I'm sorry. I can't even, you can't make this stuff up, bro. He like ran. It was like a big part of his campaign.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to stop the wall. Remember that? Now he wants to build it. Now he changed his mind. I mean, everybody changes their mind.
Why? I mean, no, well, why would it? I mean, he can change his mind now because millions of people have crossed the border illegally, so he's got voters for the next, or his party has voters for the next. Nah, that's terrible. Actually,
it's just tough, dude. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, man, there's a lot of this article is about, it's like CNN. That's just blowing him up over this deal. But anyway.
No, they're reporting that he's been roasted. They're not roasting him themselves. They're reporting that he's being roasted.
Yeah, by people in his own party.
Yep.
But anyway, so all right, let's get back on track. We're talking about states' rights today.
So some of the other ones so immigration, I guess, has become a state right.
Yeah.
Because the federal government has abdicated their responsibility.
Correct. Yep.
So there's gun rights. We don't need to talk.
We've talked a lot about gun rights.
A lot about that. Right.
Yep.
Same-sex marriage. Let's
touch on a couple of things really quick. Yep. So the gun rights thing, I think one of the main things to take away from that is that if you do research on the states with the strictest gun rights in the country, there seems to be a direct correlation between an excess of violent crime.
Correct.
So we've pointed that out in the past. So I think that's something that, again, is it working is my question.
It doesn't work.
Okay.
Because do criminals follow the law?
Of course not.
It's
just like drugs, dude. We talked about that. It's supply and demand, right? If there's a demand, dude, somebody's going to supply, whether that's coming from the black market, whether that's coming legally.
Yep.
I take the position of a common sense approach of understanding and creating restrictions and some level of a process, right? Because I do feel like, but again, the sad thing, man, about government is that, right? It's like once you open that door, it tends to just go wild, and the restrictions and the red tape come from every single direction. And so anyway, that's where this kind of, the states' rights thing is interesting to me, because at least there is some ability to try to use some common sense based on your state and your state situation. So anyway, keep going.
Yeah.
The next one is?
So assisted suicide. But so go back to episode 13.
Is that which one it was?
Yep.
Yeah.
Elderly care. Elderly care with Cindy Recker, right? Go back to episode 13. That's a really, really good one. It's really eye-opening. And you were touched during that. I mean, sitting there with your mom, it was great.
Fuck off. It was emotional.
That's why I said you were. Did I just say you? I said you were touched. I didn't say you were broken down crying. I said you were touched.
I got teary.
I know you did.
If you want to see that episode,
anyway,
watch it.
Yes, you should.
It was actually a really good episode. The thing about that too, and about the assisted suicide thing, what was eye-opening, I think, to you and I both in that discussion, was how few people really truly have that discussion with elderly family members or people that they know about what are their wishes, what do they really want. And we're all gonna die, bro.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a guarantee.
Oh.
Death and taxes, right? That's a guarantee.
No shit.
So, I mean, so anyway, that was a pretty interesting discussion. So that's a state by state.
Yeah,
it's a state by state.
So if you want to see that episode, go to our Spotify. Why Not Us in all caps.
All caps. Search right? All caps. Why
search
not?
All caps. Why Not Us on Spotify, and you can find. And it's episode 13. Elderly care with Cindy.
Yeah, and now that Jimmy's helping us out, we might be able to pull some shorts out of some of these discussions that we're having today.
You know what we should do? We should have one of the clips from that come in, be a trailer to this.
That'd be great.
Okay,
that'd be great.
So the abortion.
Taking notes back there, you got it? Oh yeah, he's got it.
Good.
He's
playing Candy Crush. Anyway,
he's a give a flying fuck right now. We're talking about. Anyways, go ahead.
So abortion. So Roe v. Wade, landmark 1973 case that established a constitutional right for abortion.
States' rights thing,
up until the fetus can survive outside the womb.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It was the law of the land for almost 50 years.
Yeah.
2022, not last year, the year before, Supreme Court overturned the half-century-old precedent. Since then, data indicates abortions have ticked up nationally, despite drops in states that have banned or greatly restricted the procedure.
So another one of those kind of arguments that is it even working?
Yeah.
Is it accomplishing what it's meant to accomplish as these states put restrictions and regulations in place?
So you've got and let's be very honest, you've got a bunch of red states that said like at 12 weeks or at 15
weeks. That's most of these these items we're talking about, right?
Yep.
They're big items that they're defining items between the bipartisan system in the United States.
Correct. Yep. So, states have now been left to devise their own statutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw an interactive map. You can look this up. I saw an interactive map where it was up to 12 weeks, up to 15 weeks, up to the second trimester, up to 21 weeks, up to second trimester, whatever. Right, and it had all these states in those color codes, so you can look that up online.
Yeah,
So it's now it's become whereas Roe v. Wade was a constitutional right, it was a federal.
Yeah. Yep.
Now it's states' rights.
Yeah.
Right, and it goes back to what you were talking about of being able to move from one place to another based on what your preferences are.
I mean, since this Roe v. Wade thing's happened, I mean, there's companies that will fly employees to the state to get an abortion.
Yeah, since it was overturned.
A lot of stuff has happened, right?
Yep.
And there's people have taken a really strong stance on that, and I think that's another one of those, like, there's so many factors, dude, and so many variables that come into that discussion for each individual. Like, it's so hard to regulate that, bro.
Yeah,
it's not hard to regulate it, I don't think, in a common sense sort of way, but like, I don't think it's one of those. It's either it's okay or it's not okay.
Right.
There's got to be a set of parameters of some sort that I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one. Because we talked.
It's insanely tough. And you're not a woman, I don't think.
No, well, not anymore. Fuck you, Jimmy. I saw your look over there. He's like, ooh.
I'm not, right? Like, so
no, I don't know.
So I can't. I can't. I'm not in those shoes. I'll never be in those shoes.
I'll tell you one thing that I love of the discussion. So obviously, I apologize to anybody that's offended, but I'm not vaccinated. I got COVID. I didn't get sick. I was fine. And so I was like, why would I get a vaccination for something that I know my body can handle?
Yep.
And it's amazing me how many of these discussions that came up with me with people kind of on the far left side of the fence saying, well, you're killing people. You have to do it. And I'm like, but when it comes to abortion, isn't it my body, my choice?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's different. But is it different?
There's such,
and so I mean,
there's
I'm
hypocrisy in it.
I'm admittedly saying that if I'm going to take that position with something like the vaccine, say I don't want somebody to tell me I can or can't do that.
Right.
I don't really think I should be telling somebody whether or not they you know what I mean?
100%. 100% correct.
Yeah, this
And that's
contradictory
common sense.
positions are
But people get
sickening.
so polarized over it one way or the other.
Yeah.
And it's really funny, the people that are, it's the two ends again, the two ends of the spectrum. You've got people who are polarized over my body, my choice, but you're killing people if you don't get a vaccination.
right.
They're in the same camp, right? So then you've got this other camp, right, that says, no, you're not jabbing me with anything, but no, you cannot abort that fetus, even if it was under rape or incest or whatever.
Right? Most of those people making those claims don't even care about the circumstances.
Correct.
They're just so stuck in their position.
Correct.
It's like, which is what makes it so crazy.
Or the mother is having a medical emergency.
Yeah, and could die.
Right. So they're like, no, you're not gonna. I'm not gonna take a vaccination either. And it's just so polarized.
And this goes back though to you explaining in one of the episodes about kind of the horseshoe.
Yeah.
Right. That was really eye opening. Like visualization for me, because I think we're kind of told, you've got the far right here and the far left here. Really, no, dude. The two radical ends of the spectrum are very, very close to one another. Yeah. They operate in a very similar way. Yeah. They have the similar goals, right? Yeah. It's very interesting to me they're not so far apart.
Well, I mean, I could easily describe them.
Yeah.
They're certifiably fucking insane.
Yeah, that's right. but again, dude, that's the other part I think is interesting about this whole discussion. We have created such a hard line with this bipartisan system that, like, you're told you have to choose.
Yeah.
And like, if you have to, and again, dude, I think we've talked about this in many of our discussions, which is, I personally don't know anybody in my circle of people that is all one or the other.
Yeah.
That fits into one of those boxes perfectly, and far right, no, dude, they're centrist. They're somewhere in the middle.
Correct.
They want to see common sense used in the regulations and in the development of policies and things of that nature. Like, it shouldn't be that fucking complicated.
Because but also remember, life's about choices, and that's who we choose to surround ourselves with.
That's right. That's right.
But at the same time, the people on this end of the spectrum or that end of the spectrum, they choose to surround themselves with people who think and agree with them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's that groupthink mentality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. If I surround myself with,
find more people that hang out with that agree with me. I bet I'd be happier.
No, you would.
That's like we started you all the fucking time for no reason.
All right. Anyway. So, some states have done X, some states have done Y, relative to abortion. And again, it's a choice. The nice thing is, we as Americans have the choice of where we live. Now you may say, well, I don't have the funds, I don't have the wherewithal, I don't have the resources with which to just uproot my family and move from a shithole, maybe like, I don't know, Connecticut to like a nice place like, I don't know, Arizona, right?
Right.
So some people might say they can't do that, they won't do that. Okay, I get it. I understand there's some aspect of the resources needed to make that move, but at the very highest level, the great thing about this country is you can move. You don't need a visa to go from New Jersey to,
That's right. That's
right.
And it could be that way. But at the same time, too, like, think about, I obviously lived in Arizona in 2002 was when I moved. I think it was 2002. And then I think about what it was like then and what it's like now. Like, if you would have told me in 2002 that Arizona would have legalized marijuana for recreational use, I'd be like, no way.
Yeah.
It was red.
Yeah.
When I was down, you know what I mean? It was a very, Sheriff Joe was in town. It was a hardcore,
the posse.
Yeah. But it was, well,
now you've got
changed a lot because of the infiltration of people fleeing from California and all the right policies. Right. Like, it's just, it changes and it changes. And that's the one part, dude, that I think is really interesting about this states' rights thing. That's a little bit, we also had the pod about, the blue cities and red states.
Yeah. Purple.
Yeah. It's a very interesting thing to think about, that all of these states will flip-flop.
Yeah.
Essentially over time, long enough period of time.
Yeah.
And so, because you see, like, people don't like the policies in their states. Unfortunately, what people understand is, if you don't like the policies in your state, and you move to get away from those policies, don't take your politics with you.
Yeah. So I'm fleeing
It makes
because
no sense.
because of policy decisions in our and the state government sucks, and there's homelessness or there's crime or there's drug problems or
there's human feces on the sidewalk
in San Francisco. But anyway, right? So
a lot of places in California.
Yeah, true. But what they do when they come here, they still think the same way, and they vote.
And they go, well, you guys should do what we did.
No,
that's why you came here, dumbass.
The thing that Jimmy knows this because Jimmy and I worked together before. One of the things I hate the most is when you hire somebody.
Yeah.
And like in a manager or director position.
Yeah.
And you hire somebody, and within the first month or so or whatever, you say, hey, why are we doing it this way now? Well, the way we did it over here. Hey, don't tell me about how you did it over there. That's why you left.
That's
right. It didn't work. Right. So now you want to do the same thing. It's the same thing when it
absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
It's okay to change, like to be open to some of these ideas.
Yep.
And to understand that if you are so frustrated, we talked about the influx of people into Florida, dude. It's crazy. I was just down there. You and I were down there a couple months ago.
Yeah. Yep.
And I mean, dude. The conversations I had with people, so many people that I talked to had only been there for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. It was around the COVID time frame where they were their city, state, wherever it was, had created a bunch of really, I would say, government overreach type of policies and restrictions and regulations. And they were like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah.
And like, there's a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason. It's like, don't take that with you. If you're going to go,
right.
You know what I mean? That's you're going to flee from this stuff. Don't go there and then preach to people about how they should have the same policies in place as your old state. Just stay.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
Just stay.
Just don't get it.
Just stay and fuck it up more.
Yeah.
Right. But think
how many people move? So there's another state. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But think about, remember when we went to Cav's house?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like his apartment complex.
Yeah, we call him Cavs, by the way, because he's got the sexiest man calves I've ever seen.
You're gorgeous.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
he was definitely never a woman, but
no, he's not. So, like, remember all the people that we met that we were all hanging around the pool with?
Yeah.
From everywhere.
Most of them from the Northeast.
Well, and around the world.
There was people.
Remember the Chinese lady?
Yeah.
And there was the English couple. Right?
Yeah.
And the German guy, right? Like they were from everywhere.
Absolutely, they were.
Right? So immigration it works. It's smart when it's done the right way.
And you know what the funny thing was? I asked everyone, like, how do you like Florida? And like, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, they were.
You know what I mean?
Well, because we were there in November and it was.
But it was also the open policies, right? It's like I feel like I can go out and function and live my life.
When you said, why did you move here? Well, I work with so and so, or I work for this company that's here, or I do and like I run my consulting business out of Tampa and this that, right?
Absolutely.
So it's great. So
let's talk about another one. Yeah. So
moving on.
One of the other ones is same-sex marriage.
Yeah.
Right. Which is another one that obviously if that is something that people move, when Iowa was one of the I think Iowa was like in the first 10 states. Which is what's interesting too, because at that time I was not known as a blue state.
Yeah,
I was right in the middle.
Yeah,
I think on most topics, right?
It is. That's why it's one of the reasons.
It's why it's a swing state in the.
It's one of the first primaries.
Right? Yeah.
Caucus is what, like 2 weeks?
It's coming. Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting fucking text messages from politicians. You're on a list. I'm on all sorts of lists.
You are on a list.
How am I on a list? Who cares?
Really?
I mean, I don't even make any money anymore. Well, maybe a little bit.
They're called they're called tax records.
Like right now, these guys are like, oh, we want it. I'm not making any money anymore, guys.
So the last one is this shit with invoking the 14th Amendment.
Yeah,
Colorado took Trump off the ballot. Right,
states did. Didn't they?
Well, and Colorado, but in Colorado it was their Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So their Attorney General brought it to I think to a grand jury. It went to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
They said in a 4-3 decision, he's off the ballot. That's a state's right.
Yeah.
Right. To put people on a presidential ballot or to put people on a gubernatorial ballot.
Yeah.
Or whatever the case might be.
Right.
That's their right. So then Maine followed suit, but it was very different.
Yeah.
So this lady who is a Secretary of State in Maine, which is a very blue state, even though it's very rural, it's weird, but it's a very blue state. Right. All of New England's blue.
Right.
But this lady, Secretary of State, just decided, due to her obligation to the Constitution of the United States and the office with which she holds in Maine, to remove him from the ballot because he took part in an insurrection.
Yep.
And therefore she invoked the 14th Amendment.
Very interesting.
This lady who's, hold on. Not elected.
Yeah.
Not elected. Appointed by the governor. This lady who was not elected has decided for, what's the population of Maine? It's not much.
No.
500,000?
No.
Maybe, right?
It can't be a lot. There's a lot of empty space in Maine. It's basically, it's Canada. Pretty much. We should sell Maine to Canada.
I'm going to look it up. The population of Maine.
That's got to be more than 500,000.
1.372 million.
So not, it's still small.
So what she did, what this lady, this unelected, appointed Secretary of State, and obviously not very bright because every constitutional professor, attorney, scholar out there goes, lady, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
be careful here.
Yeah, you're wrong, right? Because there's this whole process that you have to go through in order to invoke the 14th Amendment, and it includes a trial, it includes all that,
some due process, right?
That's what I was looking for. Due process, right? It involves due process, and she did none of that. She just said,
yeah.
So an unelected person, I'm harping on this, unelected, appointed lady in Maine deprived 1.372 million people in Maine the right to vote for somebody.
Yes, just by the stroke of a pen, but saying I'm going to invoke the 14th Amendment. How do we get you on the ballot? If you want to write in Libertarian Mike McGowan, I say we make a push. I think we could do it. You go Libertarian, I think you got a shot, bro. I don't think anybody likes anything that's going on right now.
Nobody.
Marine Mike McGowan.
Yeah.
Perfect for political position.
Mike McGowan. Handsome Mike McGowan. Anyway,
and extremely ethical.
Yes. Well, you said ethical, yes. Moral, well. The Jimmy can attest to the ethical side. The moral side. Anyway. So, so it's Section 3 of the 14th Amendment has been used to disqualify a presidential candidate. There was some lady on CNN not long ago who said Jefferson Davis was not allowed to be to run for any office after the Civil War. Well, no shit.
Yeah.
He seceded. He led. He was the president of the Confederacy. He led the secession attempt of the South. He was the president of the Confederacy in Richmond, Virginia.
Yes, trying to split apart for
Yes, that's an insurrection.
That makes sense. Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think it's interesting, man. That whole January 6th thing. It's funny because I hear a lot of people, and again, this is based on media coverage, right? There's I hear a lot of rumbling from people from the left, like about how awful that situation was, and it was really eye-opening to me remember when Tucker Carlson pulled that video out from inside of the White House, and there's literally people opening doors and the security guys are opening doors, letting people into offices. And then they're going in there and looking around and hanging out. Is that an insurrection?
Taking a selfie.
And posting on Facebook at the same time.
Yeah, right.
You think that they're really part of an insurrection and
those people are rotting in prison, by the way. There's a bunch of them.
I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Years in prison.
Oh yeah, 10 years, 15 years.
And yet the current administration allowed them to come into the White House in a lot of cases.
Well, that current administration was,
it was right at the time there were transitions happening.
Yeah,
right?
It was right before,
Yeah, but I mean, it was just interesting to me, right? That I don't know. Again, do your own research. We talk about that a lot.
Yeah,
right? But go do your own research. But just listen to how, the fact that there's people, like you said, rotting in prison over that situation. After a security person allowed them and was unlocking doors and letting them into parts of the White House. Those are the people that should be getting their ass in trouble.
Yeah. I gotta be honest with you, man. I think people on the far left, when they wake up, it's like Groundhog Day. Remember the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I think for every far left extreme Democrat, when they wake up, every day is January 6th. Right? I think they just wake up every fucking day and they're like, it's January 6th. Let's put him away. Let's get rid of Trump. Let's do whatever we can.
Oh, yeah.
Like stroking a pen or going to a court or whatever.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about Colorado is there was a district court, like a lower court than a Supreme Court, said that he needed to stay on the ballot. So he went against the Attorney General of Colorado.
Okay.
And said that no, Trump should remain on the ballot. Then the Supreme Court overturned the district court. So it's just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth based on interpretation of the law.
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
There's no interpretation of the Constitution like that. I mean, you are either part of an insurrection, you're there leading the Confederacy,
Right.
or you were, questioning the results of an election, maybe a little too aggressively, right? But you are inciting people to violence or doing anything crazy like that.
That's right.
So so he's now appealed the ruling by the Secretary of State in Maine.
Yeah.
And his lawyers have said that the appeal of that Supreme Court decision of the Colorado Supreme Court decision is imminent, right? So that's going to happen. And it's going to go to the Supreme Court at some point.
Yeah.
Right. The question is how long? It's just like his trials.
Right.
Like, how long is it going to take?
Right.
Are we going to get to the election in November here and he's still on trial for something somewhere?
Of course he is.
Most likely.
Dude, they're never going to let that die. And here's the thing, man, that scares me a little bit because I'm worried that there are so many people that are so pro-Trump that, this is a slippery slope for the Republican Party.
Very much.
Because if people get so stuck on Donald Trump and he can't be on the ballot in, however many states, it's going to be a big problem.
So
Potentially. And you made the comment to me yesterday, we talked about this. You're like, but a lot of those states he's not going to win anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, dude, I don't know.
Yeah, you never know.
Why would they be pushing? Why would they be, if they thought he had zero chance, why would they be so
I don't think
hell-bent on getting him off the ballot?
Yeah, I don't think he has zero. I think he has zero chance in Colorado. I think Maine's a different.
I disagree.
Really?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
I think there's so many people that are, look, man, the economic status of the country is in shambles.
Yes.
Inflation is at an all-time high. Interest rates are at an all-time high.
Oh, but
cost of living is at an all-time high.
The gas prices have come down.
They've come down some. Yeah. So erased. But I mean, dude, cost of groceries. I mean,
it's not going up as much as it used to go up.
So that's a win, right? Because we're only at 8% instead of 9%, which before that was running at a 2 to 3% average, right? Like
us,
anyway, the job market is not great. There's a lot of issues, man, going on, and I hate to say this, Joe Biden's current approval rating is 35%.
Yeah,
last number I saw, 33 maybe now.
Something like that.
It's awful.
Yeah,
it's awful, dude. That's what I mean. He's got a chance in some of these states because people are fed up, bro.
He has the worst.
And again, I don't even. Yes. Jimmy Carter and I were born on the same day. I told you that.
Yeah. Same
year. Named after. You.
Anyway,
same year.
Yeah, dude.
Jimmy Carter wishes he had a face like mine and a noggin. An idiot.
Has our perception of our own looks has changed since the beginning of this podcast?
I don't know. I think at some point I was told I was previously a woman. So I don't know. I'll go hit the mirror. My hair's growing back for anybody that cares.
Where?
I actually just manscaped a couple days ago.
There you go.
All right. Well, let's. I think we should wrap it up, dude. I think we've been pretty good on time. I think it was a great discussion. I think the states' rights things is one of those things to watch out for in your state and where you are, and understand that if you feel strongly about some of these issues that we're talking about, this is where it matters to go out there and vote.
Yeah.
It matters to understand where people's position are in some of these topics, right?
Yep.
See if it's in line with your position, and work with some of these more local and state types of governments than just relying on the federal government to save the day, because that's not real.
Yeah. And you know what? What's interesting for all of you listeners, and maybe we lose one or two because of this, but if you
more,
if you're on the far left, don't stop. You're not going to change. You're not going to vote for somebody else. If you're on the far right, stop. You're not going to vote for somebody else.
That's right.
We're talking to the 90% of the people who have some common sense that are in the middle.
Absolutely.
Right. And that believe in, common sense governance, right? No government overreach, right? Like everyday traditional American values. Think about who you're voting. Put a little extra time into it.
That's it. Yeah.
Just even if you say, you know what, I voted Republican. I've always voted Republican my entire life, right? I'm probably going to vote Republican. Do a little bit of research anyway.
That's right.
Just make sure you're aligned with what that. And if you're not aligned in maybe one topic, maybe one facet of that person's candidacy or their policy views or whatever the case might be, at least know that.
Yeah.
And not explode when something happens but you already knew it.
Yeah.
You knew it was coming when you voted for the guy, right? Or the gal, excuse me.
Yeah.
Right? You already knew it when you voted for the person. So, don't go crazy on social media and don't get yourself all in a
right.
No, don't put more anxiety in your life. just do a little bit of research beforehand. And then if the guy does, or the gal doesn't win, and then you can bitch all you want.
Yeah. No, it's a great discussion, man. I appreciate you pulling a bunch of this stuff together. You did some work coming into this day, and appreciate you, Jimmy. Why Not Results?
Why Not Results is our...
So check those guys out online too.
Production partner here. Why Not Us in all caps on Spotify or on our website at whynotUspod.org.
Tell your friends.
Keep
an eye out for some shorts. Jimmy's going to help us get a few shorts done, I think.
Yep.
Pull a few pieces out of some of our previous podcasts. Now that we actually have a shitload of content. I think there's actually, man, I've been going back and it's fun now when people reach out, because I ask sometimes if they're interested in specific topics, and I think we've covered at least something that appeals to everybody. An interesting topic.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say appeals, but something that maybe sparks interest in people on some level. So
yeah. So I just want to throw it out there for some of the people who are like longtime listener, first time caller, right? So I put out a post, and I know not all of our listeners are on Facebook or following. You're no longer on.
I know, man.
It was deactivated.
I did.
New Year's resolution.
That was a New Year's resolution.
Okay.
Well, it was time, man. It was based on time. I felt like I was kind of using a lot of my time, and not that I love. There's so many benefits to the social media platforms, but there's downfalls as well.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, it's like just getting sucked into meaningless content.
Yeah.
And I was catching myself, right, just going down into these rabbit holes, like watching YouTube videos of guys like trying to hit a ping pong ball into a fucking cup from like 40 feet away. You know what I mean? Just stupid stuff.
You know what ones I love? The goats, when you scare them, they faint. The little goats, and they freeze,
or
they
like,
just fall over.
Where people put the cucumber next to the cat and they just like shit their pants. Like, some of that stuff is fun to watch. But anyway,
if you haven't watched the goat videos, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I absolutely did for a time, and so I do want people to know that they can still communicate with me through Facebook Messenger and some of those things.
Yep.
If you have ideas for topics or things that you think we need to talk about, or feedback on,
then I'll still manage the Facebook page and the group. Right?
Yeah.
So we're still on there. It just he's not as much of a part.
That's right. Yeah. And again, we'll see how that goes.
But anyway, where I was going with that, right? So I put out a post on the 31st, on December 31st.
Yes.
So it had our numbers, and we want to thank everybody who's been a long-time listener or a supporter of ours. We've had well over 4,000 listens on Spotify. We've had well over 2,000 listens on Apple, and we've had 4,000 on YouTube. We're well over 10,000. And the number has grown in those 4 days since. It's not a big number. It's like 450 or something like that.
I think Jimmy's going to be able to help us out with this too. I think the funny thing is we realize that we have not done a very good job of actually exposing and marketing ourselves. I think we did this again kind of from the standpoint of, let's give people a platform and a place to open up some of these interesting discussions. And now we're kind of taking that next step, I think, to take it a little more seriously and kind of make the next move to make sure we're getting in front of people. And so anyway, I'm excited about it.
So we're going to continue to interact, and we really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, we'll be recording a couple more episodes today. Hopefully you guys will tune in. Why Not Us?
Yep.
We'll see you next time, big guy.
Take care. Thanks.